Today we're going to review all the transformations we've done using patty paper. Patty paper is used to separate hamburger patties. If you work at a fast food place, you might have seen this before. We're just going to use it as tracing paper. It's important that you use a pencil to do this. Make sure you're using pencil. And I want you to start just in the corner of your patty paper. Will you choose one of these logos and just trace it on? So now I have my logo traced, and I just want to get a copy of it in this really faint circle right here. And the best way I've found to transfer this into that circle is flip your patty paper over and scribble on the back. This is going to serve sort of as a transfer paper. So we're scribbling on the back. And when we turn, oh, see what had happened already? I can sort of see an image of it. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put it in this circle and trace over it from the right side now. And if you trace over it, you might have to press kind of hard, but not so hard you tear your paper. And when you move it, you should be able to see your logo faintly enough, but well enough that you can trace it on there. So take a minute and get that traced on there. Again, pausing when you need to if you need more time. Oh, that was kind of terrible, but I did my best. Alright, once you've got that traced on there, just line it up again right where you wanted it. And here's what you need to do. You need to trace along that really faint line up there. And you'll see our translation vector. Just make sure that you can see where the starting point and the stopping point of that vector are, because that's the important part. That tells us how far we want to go, and the line sort of tells us in what direction. So once you have all of that lined up, you're simply going to slide, so you don't go off the line, slide your tracing paper until the beginning of that arrow matches up with the end of the original one, and we're still on the line, so we haven't twisted or turned or anything. We're still on the line. Now we've translated it, and so now we're just going to trace one more time, and you should have that translated image. All right, let's talk reflections now. So step one, we're going to trace that moon. And a reflection can sort of be seen as like a fold or a flip, right? And so I also want you to trace this line that we're going to flip over. Now there's kind of two ways to do this. You can actually fold your patty paper on that reflection line, and that'll give you a good idea of where that moon is supposed to line up, right? Another way is doing the old scribble on the back side of the moon trick. Instead of, oh, look at that. Instead of folding the paper, we can actually flip the paper upside down. And trace, making sure that that line is lined up though. And we can do the old trace thing. And I guess I should have scribbled on the other side, right? But hopefully that'll show up okay. There it is. And you can always tell if it's a good reflection if you connect the pre-image with the image and you get those nice right angles, right? Why don't you try number 4? Number 4, we're gonna flip the arrow over line A. It'll wind up maybe somewhere here. And then we're gonna take that same arrow and flip it over line B. And it should wind up somewhere there. Why don't you try that? And mine turned out with a flip, and the arrow winds up sort of in that position. Does yours look about the same as mine? Check those even spacings from there to there. Did you have to draw line B on your patty paper? Because then even spacings from there to there, a nice right angle. That should look good. All right, next. Trace Batman. You got Batman all traced. You really don't need to fill it in if you don't want to. And again, we could do sort of the fold representation so you can picture what it's gonna look like, or we could literally flip our patty paper over, making sure that we're flipping on that line, and use that to complete our Batman. So again, just trace onto there and hopefully an image is gonna show up underneath. That turned out pretty well. I didn't even really have to trace over it. I can just color it in. We're gonna try another tool, different from the patty paper. It's called the Geo Mirror. One of these babies. I don't have enough for everyone, so you might have to share. Do you see how on the Geo Mirror there's one side that's sort of beveled at the bottom? That's the side that we need to use as the bottom. So when you stand it up, the beveled side is at the bottom. And do you guys already see what's happening? As I put my Geo Mirror on that reflection line, if you keep your eyeballs on this side, can you sort of see the completion of Batman over there? So what you want to do is you want to keep your eyes on this side, but reach your hand to the back side. Lefties, you might want to do this upside down. So I'm going to keep my eyes over here, but put my hand over here, and I'm sort of doing a blind trace. I'm using my hand to trace the lines that I can see from that right side. This takes some getting used to. I'm not sure how well I'm going to even do it, but it's a nice idea, right? Why don't you try that and we'll meet back here and see what we came up with. I had to kind of cheat. Mine didn't line up perfectly when I took the mirror away, so I had to sort of improvise. And honestly, I like the patty paper version better because it came out more precise. I guess it's because of the thickness of the Geo Mirror. If you could get that infinitely thin, it would probably work a lot better, but then it would break. Let's go to the back side. For Pac-Man, you will need a protractor because otherwise how are we going to know what 80 degrees is? And we just have to pick some reference point on Pac-Man. It doesn't matter what point you use, but I think I'm going to go for the eyeball just because that's kind of obvious. I want to go 80 degrees clockwise, and so I'm just going to kind of visualize that first. That's going to go this way, right? And so I want to sort of imagine connecting the eyeball to the center of rotation and making an 80-degree angle right here. So I'll go ahead and make your 80-degree angle, lining the 0 up with the eye. There's that 80-degree angle. And then you can take a minute to trace Pac-Man. Pac-Man trace. Let's give him some shading on the back side because we're going to be tracing over the front side this time. All right, so line him back up. All right, here comes our rotation. So I want you to put your pencil at P, the center of rotation, and you can also think of that as a pivot point, right? And check this out. As you twist that patty paper, it shows the rotation of Pac-Man, we know we want to go 80 degrees clockwise. We'll know when to stop because we know we use that eyeball as our reference point. So once you get the eyeball lined up with that 80-degree line, then it's time to trace. Mine turned out okay. I can see that the eyeball is on that second ray from my angle. That's an 80-degree rotation. When we're doing this next one, we're gonna go counterclockwise. So that's this way, right? So I'm sort of expecting the candy to come out somewhere over here, maybe. We need to do 135 degrees. I want you all to try that one. I'm ready to go with this. I traced my candy. I had to choose a reference point. Personally, I choose this upper left corner and made my angle from there. But again, you can choose any point on the candy as long as you remember where it is. That's where you'll stop once you complete your rotation. So I already have my candy traced and my center of rotation is marked. And I'm gonna do my rotation. So there's my pivot point, rotating my patty paper until that, okay, well it used to be the upper right corner. Maybe I should mark that a little better. It's this spot that I'm hoping to get lined up with the line, right? Let's try that again. Lined up. All right, so that's what I'm looking for. Tracing it again. Did yours wind up kind of in that region? I also like tracing the stripes because it shows how the stripes rotate too. Pretty good. I really like the method of patty paper when we don't just have a couple of vertices, like this kind of crazy shape is, it doesn't have like, I guess you could use the points of the flowers, but with the patty paper, you can sort of see where each of the parts of the image show up. And even those stripes rotated around, right? To get set up for this last one, I want you to draw your own design within this trapezoid. It doesn't have to be trapezoidal, just any design that fits in the trapezoid, and get it traced on your patty paper. If you read this one, our plan is to rotate this 60 degrees clockwise, about point S, and then take the image and rotate that another 60 degrees clockwise. And we're gonna keep doing that until basically it rotates all the way around the circle. You might be able to predict how many 60 degrees it'll take to make it all the way around the circle. Okay, so let's start by choosing a reference point. I think I'm gonna choose this lower left corner here to make my angle. So I'll connect that to point S, and I'll make a 60-degree angle. And as long as we're at it, once we have that 60-degree angle, why not make another 60 off of that one? We'll just get all of our 60s drawn before we start to trace. So from that end side, I'm gonna do another 60. There's my second 60, another 60. And if you figured this out, it should take 6 rotations of 60 degrees to make it all the way around the circle, right? 6 times 60 is 360. You don't even have to measure the other side, because if we just extend those lines, that should split this side into 60s as well, vertical angles, right? And so there we have our sort of 6 pit stops that we're gonna do as we rotate. So just so you get a feeling for this, we're going to line up our design and we'll rotate 1, trace it out, 2, trace it out, right? And so you should have 6 of these by the time.
And
you're
mine
done.
turned out
Give it
like
a shot.
this. It kind of reminds me of a snowflake. Did you know snowflakes have 6-point symmetry like this? So yeah, we went around 6 times using rotations.